What's up, everybody? I'm coming at you from Holly Springs National Forest. This is a Sunday. I'm heading back from the North Mississippi Hill Country Picnic. I came down here to the Holly Springs area to check out this music festival, and it features a style of blues music that came from North Mississippi Hills area. And Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside are the two noted pioneers of this unique style of music that came from this area. And ever since I've been diving into the Mississippi blues history and the Mississippi blues music, which I've been doing, I'll put a link to a bunch of videos below. This is like my fifth trip here in the past few months. And I've checked out all these blues locations just to learn about the blues and to see what it's about. Because I think going to the places and seeing it is the best way. And it's been incredible, a lot of these experiences, including this one that I went to just now, the North Mississippi Hill Country Picnic. So I came in, and right away I found the picnic on Friday. So around 5 p.m., I got there, a bunch of grass, big old stage, they got food, and this is great, because you're just going to settle in and hang out for hours. Then I ran into these folks I met at the Blue Front Cafe just the previous week at a festival that they had there, hosted by Jimmy Duck Holmes, and that was cool, and they gave me some edibles. So I took an edible, and the music was playing all of a sudden, and I was feeling great and feeling like every choice I've made in my life has just been a great choice, is what I felt, especially after I got that barbecue nachos that they had. But I was really impressed by the music, and in particular as I've been diving into the blues, and I've really gravitated to the blues that comes out of this area, especially R.L. Burnside is the one that I'm really picking up on and getting interested in. And really I think this started for me because I had an ad on Facebook for this Fat Possum Records documentary. I watched that documentary and I just got really intrigued by this, but I've been intrigued by the blues for about 6 months and curious about them. So finally I'm coming to learn about it and see what the deal is. But the cool thing about this picnic is that they've got a bunch of R.L. Burnside's relatives playing. And so you're seeing the history, you're seeing people who have carried that heritage of this music still existing here in this little region of the North Mississippi Hill Country and Holly Springs and so on. So that was cool. That was why, to me, this was like a big thing that I had to do, a kind of bucket list experience, was to go check this out. So they had Kent Burnside with Jimbo Mathis was playing, then they had Dwayne Burnside. Robert Kimbrough Sr. was playing, Junior Kimbrough's relative, and R.L. Boyce, I've heard, this is the second time I've seen him, and it's a real treat to see him. But I've been told that he's one of the remaining North Mississippi Hill Country Blues folks that's playing. R.L. Boyce was playing, and he had Lightning Malcolm up there, and I remember them from just a week ago, seeing them play at the Blue Front Cafe. Cedric Burnside, Gary Burnside, Kenny Brown, Alvin Youngblood, Luther Dickinson. Man, I had no idea that these guys were really popular and big, but they were so impressive. And especially Gary Burnside. Man, that dude, he just came on there and killed it on the guitar. And the crowd was amazed. And we were like, who else is like this? That's what I was thinking. Who else plays music like Gary Burnside right now? And I don't know. He just came in and rocked it, and it was pretty amazing. So the next morning, before the second day of the show, I made a point to go and check out Holly Springs, and it was really interesting. It was unique because it has a town square, and I'm not aware of many cities in Mississippi that have town squares. Holly Springs and Oxford are two that I have seen so far. And I always think that those are cool. So after going to Holly Springs, I went to go see R.L. Burnside's grave. And I always think that this thing of finding a grave, I went to see Robert Johnson's graves. I'll post a link to the video about it. And I always feel like the experience of going to the grave is more about going there And it's almost an excuse really to stand out in nature. It's not, the value of it is that, and you know that you're going there because somebody is there in the ground and you can think and reflect on them. But the other part is that rarely you have excuses to just go to a random spot where you're not surrounded by people and you have an excuse to reflect and think about bigger picture things. And to me, the graves allow you to have that opportunity. And that's what I always find so unique about it when I've been visiting them here, is that, making up these excuses to visit these grave sites here, is that you'll park and you get out of the truck and then things are very still and you feel the breeze and you hear the sounds and you feel the nature that you rarely seem to experience. It seems like we rarely get out there. And so that was one of the things that I was thinking about visiting his grave. Also just this kind of unassuming church. I don't even know if the church is still functional, but you've got a spot in the back. Some of the graves were just being run over by trees that were growing. It's a very interesting experience to think about and reflect on those sort of things. And one of the interesting things about the festival, I could see that for most of the people in the audience, this was the biggest live music event that they've been to for over a year now. This is, because we're looking at mid-2021 right now. This was definitely the biggest musical event I've been to since a year and a half or so, in terms of, there might have been like 2,000 people that were there, and they actually sold out. So they simply didn't have enough parking to bring more people in to the festival, which was exciting, and apparently that was the first time they sold out. And there's this interesting flavor of the festival, which is that it is featuring heritage. It's treating the music as from a heritage perspective. They even had like Rising Stars fife and drum music, which had a strong background and a strong history of African music that came through here, and it was hosted by a Heritage Foundation, and so that was like a part of what this is doing. But you also have this layer where people in the crowd can't take video. So it's very interesting. They were very strict about this. And the first time I experienced this was in Red's Lounge in Clarksdale, where they're very strict about not taking video. And the reason why in Red's Lounge that they do that is because these people don't have strong access to their recordings. And so they don't want people to take their recordings and put that out there, right? Because this is a threat that anybody would face, right? Any artist faces that threat. But they do in particular because maybe they don't have the full infrastructure in place to be on top of that. It certainly seems like the transition between making the music and doing the recordings isn't fully there. And so the notion of getting appropriate compensation for these people and bringing them up to the level of stardom that they deserve and all of that are kind of critical and important questions to think about. Now, when I think about the North Mississippi Hill Country, though, it seemed a little bit different than Red's, the story I was just talking about Red's. And by the way, the notion of the recording isn't just of today, the issues of don't record these people. That goes way back. If you think about how much music was lost simply because it was never recorded in the first place, right? And a lot of the blues history was like that, in that Robert Johnson's music was simply recorded because somebody listened to him and said, hey, let's go record your music. And a lot of these famous artists had it that way, where they had to have somebody come in and intervene and said, hey, we're going to take you here. And it's more of an ethnography sort of perspective. It's more of a like research and documenting. Like we need to capture it while it's there. And so we've been fortunate to capture a lot of that blues music in that way. And I was using Robert Johnson as an example. And, one of the interesting outcomes of that is that we perceive the blues music of that time to be all the blues music that's recorded in those recordings. But really, back in those days, what I've been told is that they play more than just what you think of for traditional, real blues music. They played, folky tunes. They basically played the common tunes that made everybody happy they basically played the tunes that would make them the most money when they were playing on the street and that would appeal to the most people. A lot like the music that we play today. You'll have, the Beale streets and Bourbon streets filled up with artists playing covers because they're trying to appeal to the people. So even though we think of Robert Johnson based on the 29 unique recordings that he put out, if you were to see him play, he would be playing a different types of music, that a broader array of music that would be more appealing to people to help you earn money when you're playing on the street and so on. But of course, when you take that person and you bring them into a recording studio, they're not going to play those songs. They're not going to play covers and so on. And they have to play something that's unique. And I thought a bug got into my truck earlier. There's definitely a lot of bugs outside my truck, and I've got a lot of bites, mosquito bites from last night. So if I'm freaking out, that's why. Now, the North Mississippi Hill Country recording situation seemed to be a little bit different, and I was thinking about this a lot. And let me give an example that typifies it. So the security guards were pretty strict about it, but there was this young girl, I don't know, she might have been 11, and she was brought up there to play. And she was brought up there to play by Gary Burnside. He was teaching her how to play. She was like maybe 11 years old. It's hard for me to tell, and she did amazing. And her grandmother was there in the audience recording, and the guy was like, no recording. And she was like, I'm her grandmother. I'm going to record this. But think about that. What if your granddaughter is playing on the Hill Country stage with Gary Burnside? It's a huge moment because she's 11, and this is like an epic moment in her life in terms of, who knows how she's going to be playing in the stage. She's going to be featured in these events with these amounts of people in the future, and she's only 11. That's the reality. So this is actually a huge thing to see and have a recording of it. And it's her own grandmother. And in that case, it's like the family, and that supersedes all your other stories of why you want to record this. So that kind of typifies it a little bit of, the question of, okay, I'm an audience, I'm not related to them. Maybe I want to remember the experience. Can I record it? So this is what the layer I was talking about is, that because this is part of a heritage thing, people had privileged access to record the music. And so you saw people up there with professional recording equipment who were recording it and would likely be distributing it and using that information. So, I got to thinking a lot of the complexities of what it means to record equipment, to record the musicians, from the spectrum of Red's Lounge, where this is more about that you don't put that recording out there so you're making money on it. And you see a lot of that on YouTube where they just take other artists' music and post it on some other channel. And these musicians are very susceptible to that, and they're very worried about it, and it's happening to them. But on the other hand, you've got a foundation that is basically pushing all the competition out so that the people of the foundation are ensured that they have access to the recordings. And then that has to bring up, I don't like the intellectualization of these things, because it seemed to me, I had this impression when I was standing there feeling like, these people have privileged access to record it. Like, what are they going to do with that information, right? They're a heritage foundation. They take your nonprofit money. Somehow we see these things as separate, but you don't necessarily have to see these things as separate. And so I felt a little bit of a hint of this idea that it was this intellectualization of the process that would detach the common folk from having access to these recordings, but these people that had the power to have the security guards from the foundations and whatever, the intellectuals, would have access to the recording. But anyway, I went on a much bigger rant on that than I intended to. But anyway, I had an amazing time. That second day was another great day, just getting in a full day of music. I was supported by the folks, my friends from the New York area, who again gave me some edibles on that second day and make sure that I was having a good time. and that was really great, and it was quite the experience. So now I'm driving back, and I'm driving through this forest and seeing what the hill country looks like. Overall, it was just really eye-opening to see it. I got really interested in the blues about 6 months ago, and to go into Holly Springs and see that plaque that talks about the unique music that comes from North Mississippi Hill Country, and how Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside are behind it, and seeing his grave, seeing all of his family still continuing to support the music. It was a really unique experience, and I'm glad I had the chance to check it out. So thanks for checking out this video. I've been posting a lot about my experiences checking out the blues scenes around Mississippi, so I'll put a bunch of links below. I'll have a playlist about it that I can put up there where you could check out more. And you can subscribe and hit that bell button to stay tuned on my posts, where I post about my music and my musical experiences. So thanks for checking this out, and I appreciate your support.